Hello, hello, this is Fear Dragon coming at you with another StarCraft 2 netcast. Today we have a Zerg versus Zerg, and this is going to be game number 2 between Team Acer and Team ROOTToD. So if you have not seen game number 1, go ahead and click the annotation below, and it'll take you to that video, so you can go ahead and check that out before you watch game number 2. But if you're still around, I'm going to assume you have seen game number 1, so let's go ahead and introduce these players. Spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of Antiga Shipyard, we have the blue Dutch Zerg player, and he is going to be representing Team Liquid. It is LiquidRet. He is a very macro-focused style player, but of course in that last game we saw him go for a one base all-in along with his ally Todd in the 2v2. We're going to have to see if he's going to opt to play that macro style in this game, as it is a Zerg versus Zerg. Can be a little bit difficult, but his opponent spawning down here in the bottom left-hand corner of Antiga Shipyard is going to be AcerNerchio, obviously representing Team Acer. Definitely a sponsor for Team Acer, of course. Makes a little bit of sense over there. And he's going to be Ukrainian Zerg. And one real interesting note is that he really enjoys PvZ, but I'm not too sure about his ZvZ. We're going to have to see if his ZvZ is up to par to deal with the likes of LiquidRet. Now we do end up seeing both these players playing it out pretty standard, just opening up with a couple of those, building up the drones to about 15 or so. But one little difference for spawning now is Rhett going for that spawning pool first, and Nerchio actually going for the hatchery first. Now I do believe that this is one of the tournament editions, one of the many tournament editions of this map that actually forces cross spawn positions, and we can even see both of these players sending their overlords clearly into the just to the cross spawn position, so they know that they are in the cross spawn, and that does mean that they might feel a little bit more comfortable playing out these kind of more macro-centric style. As we can see, Rhett just playing a little bit safer, going for that spawning pool first and then throwing down the hatchery. That's also going to allow him to get up that queen a little bit earlier and get out those larva injects, as we even see the gas going down. So we might even be seeing that might just actually be for that Zergling speed, but we'll have to find out and wait to see when he does pull guys off the gas. Meanwhile, Nerchio did get that hatchery a little bit earlier, so that's going to be popping a little bit earlier, but that's also going to delay his ability to get out those Zerglings as well as that queen. But in the meanwhile, it looks like he's actually going to have a little bit faster gas mining than his opponent, so we're going to have to wait and see. I believe that speed will come out relatively around the same time, with I think that Rhett's will be, actually you can even see the gas count are very similar. Actually they're just jumping back and forth, with Nerchio just about a half a second lead, not going to make too much of a difference. But of course this is Zerg versus Zerg, so that means until the queens pop out, everyone has infinite vision on the other team or the other player. So that means that it's basically map hacks all around, especially on the remainder of the map where there are not any queens. So we're going to really see both of these players be very much aware when their opponent decides to move out, as they have to move any units that they're going to attack with down this ramp at some point. And, you know, it can be very important to know, just because if your opponent has to run your Zerglings down through this little choke, you spot it over here, you have all the time where they're running straight down through the center over to the Xel'Naga Watchtower, down this ramp, all the way down over here to your natural expansion, up the ramp, and then finally over here. It gives you a lot of time to prepare some units of your own, maybe even try and throw down a spine crawler and buy a little bit of time for that to get up, and you can see some really cool stuff come out just because you can play so defensively when you are this far away from your opponent. Now I actually see Baneling Nest coming down from both of these players, and interestingly, I really like LiquidRet's positioning on that Baneling Nest. We see Nerchio just putting it behind his mineral line, which is going to protect it a little bit, but we do actually see Rhett kind of creating a little bit of a potential future wall off. He can connect that to the ramp, stop any kind of big Zergling run-bys, or at least delay them, forcing them to run around the hatchery instead of be able to run straight up the ramp. So that could be a nice little play that we'll see out in the future. It could help him out, but you know, you might as well use the buildings that you have to make anyways. And we actually see, ooh, a very fast layer coming out of Nerchio. We even see that third and fourth, and the second, of course, gas geysers going down for Nerchio. So I'm thinking that this is actually going to be a very fast infestor play, or sorry, not an infestor play, I meant a Mutalisk play, a very fast Mutalisk play. We're going to see if Red is going to be prepared for something like that. We do not see any kind of evolution chamber out, but he still has a lot of time. We do see quite a few Zerglings from Nerchio coming out, just doing a little bit of scouting, but with the addition of this Spine Crawler, it's going to be very easy to deflect that kind of aggression. In addition, with these Zerglings and of course these two Banelings, definitely going to seal the deal for Ret. So it's going to feel pretty comfortable. But of course, we do see finally a lair starting up for LiquidRet around the same time that Nerchio's is going to finish up. And of course, getting that second Gas Geyser, so just one at his main and one in his natural. Now just grabbing that third Gas Geyser, and he's going to slowly edge himself onto that gas. And there actually we do see that Spire going down for AcerNerchio. So this is a bit of a gamble. That is going to mean Nerchio is taking the risk right now. He's going to actually, I actually really like how active he's being with these Zerglings. So basically, this is what Nerchio is doing. He's being as active with his Zerglings as possible, trying to stop Ret from just pushing across the map with any kind of big, giant Zergling force or any kind of Zergling Baneling force to just outright kill Nerchio. As long as he can buy that time, he will eventually be able to get up these Mutalisks and basically be able to defend against any kind of big push that Ret does, just because he's going to have air units and Ret doesn't have anything that attacks air right now. So he's trying to buy time, and once he gets up those Mutalisks, he can safely try to deny this third, do a little bit of harassment, and in the meanwhile take his third behind it all. As we see this third being taken while that Spire is just about nearing completion. We can even see he's being very active with these Zerglings, canceling that third from going down. So Ret's going to be very annoyed, but of course AcerNerchio has to be so careful with these Zerglings. He does not want to lose any of them. He's playing with fire right now with that Baneling over there. Oh my god. Oh, giving me a heart attack over there, as Nerchio really wants to keep those Zerglings alive as long as possible to buy as much time. As we see 8 Mutalisks now on the way. And of course, these Zerglings are going to be reinforced with an additional wave of Zerglings. Go ahead and take a look at the worker count in the meanwhile. We do see Ret with that very standard for him, droning up like a madman. Actually has a bit of a drone lead on his opponent, as his opponent kind of also, oh my god, actually hold that thought. Ret actually having a huge swarm of Zerglings. I guess when you're not teching for those Mutalisks, that does mean your money has to be going somewhere. So you might actually be able to get the cancel off on this hatchery, and there is going to be the cancel. The drone immediately picked off. Oh, actually no, the drone's still alive. But LiquidRet does still have all of his Zerglings still left alive, but these Mutalisks are easily going to be able to pick off that Baneling, pick off a couple of those Zerglings, and now he will safely be able to take that third expansion. But you have to remember, Nerchio still being active with those Zerglings, denying Ret from being able to take his own third. And now with Ret on the retreat, he's not going to be able to deny AcerNerchio's third any longer. In the meanwhile, these Mutalisks can do a huge amount of damage. They're already coming across the map, doing some good damage. They're going to be able to snipe off a couple of the Overlords, and it looks like Ret going to sneak away with this Overlord over there for now. But in the meanwhile, we do see a couple of these Zerglings also taking a little bit extra damage. Another Overlord going down for Ret. Does he have any tech coming out, though? We do actually see Infestors coming out, so that's going to be definitely the answer to these Mutalisks. Is going to help very much with the defenses. We can see, oh my god, Nerchio just continuing to pump those Mutalisks, and even though he is droning up a little behind that, I do like that he is droning up behind all of this big aggression. But one thing that he's going to have to keep in mind is that, you know, Ret's now finally going to be able to grab that third, and if he decides, he being Nerchio, decides to overcommit with these Mutalisks, those Infestors can nab them with one single fungal growth. That could just completely change the entire dynamic of the game right now. Right now, Ret is going to be a little bit afraid to move out. He needs to keep these Infestors at home to deal with the potential Mutalisk threat and the Mutalisk harassment that can coming into the main, into the natural. Despite the fact that there are those 2 Spine Crawlers at each base, he has to be very, very defensive with them. But as soon as those Mutalisks end up dying or somehow get caught into a bad position, that means that instantly Ret can just go ahead and power units and push across the map, and he should have a very strong unit lead. But we do see a lot of Banelings coming out from Nerchio, but that great fungal growth nabs almost all of the Banelings, and now the Banelings so low on health do not manage to get any of the big hits over. But we do see the Mutalisks coming in. They are getting fungal chained as well, and these Queens also being very useful, actually getting some great transfuses down on some of these units, and it looks like we're barely surviving with a lot of those Infestors able to deflect that big push from Nerchio. And oh my god, Nerchio has lost a substantial chunk of that Mutalisk force, lost so many of those Banelings that we saw nabbed with that giant fungal growth. Oh man, that's actually going to put Ret into such a good position. We can see over here, what does Nerchio have? He has 4 Mutalisks, 0 Zerglings, 4 Queens, and now, oh my god, hold that thought. We just saw that plummet up of 20 Roaches. So it looks like the tech choice for Nerchio is finally transitioning back into the Roaches. That's going to be very interesting. He knows that his opponent has gone for this very Infestor heavy, and now he's going to have Roaches out as well. So I still feel like the advantage is still going to be in LiquidRet's favor. We can even see he has a bit of a supply advantage. but of course there are still a couple of needles out that's going to help a little bit with the DPS, but with those fungal growths, I'm not sure if it's going to matter. We do see that there are still quite a few more roaches out for Nerchio, and that's going to be the make or break difference. But again, we do see if Nerchio does decide to move across the map, as it looks like he's finally deciding maybe he's not really ready to do that. He's going to go ahead and try and take a fourth behind all of this. But again, LiquidRet would have that defender's advantage. He's even actually getting out a couple of Hydralisks. I really like this decision, as those Hydralisks can add so much to your DPS. And in the meanwhile, while we're speaking of DPS, let's go ahead and take a look at the upgrades for these roaches. We do see +1, +0 out for Ret, and meanwhile, we don't see any upgrades quite yet for Nerchio. Actually, we do see +1, +1 starting, but actually +2 is about to finish up for Red, so he's going to be sitting in a pretty good place in terms of his upgrades, although he is not really getting those Carapace upgrades. Kind of a questionable decision coming out from Red, but of course he is still in a very solid position in this game. We do see a couple of infestors out for Nerchio. So, you know, honestly, the way it comes down in this game right now is that I feel Red kind of is more prepared for the big engagement, has the better unit composition, has these better upgrades right now, but at this point in time, Nerchio definitely has the larva advantage as well as just kind of the expansion advantage in general. So he's going to be a little bit more prepared the longer this game waits. So really waiting to see exactly what Red's decision is going to be. It looks like now he's starting to move a little bit out across the map, and we're going to wait and see, is he going to move up to the center? He could actually catch a couple of these units out of position. The way he's moving, and Nerchio, oh my god, Nerchio has no idea about this, and only now is he getting vision of this, and he could get caught out of position with so many fungal growths. We do see a couple of Mitos trying to do a little bit of aggression, not really doing a whole lot, but now these roaches are going to be able to easily come in over here, snipe off this fourth. The fourth is down, but it looks like Red is going to be in a bit of a precarious situation, as so many of those fungal growths are landing on all of those clumped up roaches, and all of those roaches are about to pop, and we're about to see a lot of bloodshed over there. A couple of infested Terrans being lobbed down, but it looks like Red actually somehow managed to push AcerNerchio back just a little bit after sniping off that fourth. We do see that he's still maintaining a supply lead right now, and it's not really, I don't know, where is all that supply? It looks like it must just be in a lot of those Hydralisks, but we do see Nerchio finally transition over to those Hydralisks himself, and is actually going for those +2/+2 upgrades. In the meanwhile, looks like actually Red catching up on that Carapace upgrades, going for that +1 Carapace. Would like to see maybe some kind of additional tech coming out of him, or at least to gain that fourth. There is that fourth, as he does know he has control of the center of the map, and when you have control of the center of the map, that means you can do something like take a base in the center of the map. Nerchio had control earlier, tried to take this fourth over here, but unfortunately for him, Red ended up being able to outpower him after he lost that big engagement, or sorry, after Nerchio had lost that big engagement, losing all those banelings, and basically lost control of the center. So his expansion that he tried to take was very vulnerable. We're going to see if Red's going to end up making the same mistake. Hopefully he does not, as it looks like he's going to be going out it. He's going over, picking off a couple of those creep tumors, shutting down a little bit of the vision with that Overseer. But of course, Nerchio does know about all this. He's actually doing a great job spreading out a lot of his units. And now it looks like the big engagement is going to happen over at this choke. We see fungals going down on both sides, but you have to remember those fungals are going to be so effective against those Hydralisks who are basically like glass cans. A lot of infested Terrans being lobbed out from Ret, and that's actually going to push Nerchio back. The concave is definitely favoring Ret now because Nerchio was forced to pull back, and now with the Hydralisk count being dwindling so gosh darn fast, and now the infestor is also so low on health, it looks like Ret's going to be able to outpower Nerchio. Ret with the superior macro, the superior upgrade, is going to be able to take this game. Wow, giving Ret and Todd the 2-0 lead in this best of 5 series against Nerchio and Bly. So really curious to see what's going to happen in game number 3. That was a really well played game by both these players. We saw a little bit of back and forth. It kind of looked like Nerchio would have had the advantage, getting out those Milos, being able to put on a little bit of that pressure, stopping his opponent from taking that third while he got a third of his own. But Ret doing those little Zergling counter swing bys and trying to pick off that third himself, eventually even getting that great engagement over here, basically the defender with a little bit of a defender's advantage, not really the biggest thing factoring in, but being able to land those key fungal growths down on those banelings, I think was one of the really key things, as he has a very Zergling-centric force. And after that, was able to seize control of the center, able to take his own fourth while denying his opponents, and eventually was able to out macro his opponent and basically just push in with the superior upgrades for the win. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. And let's go ahead and jump into game number 3. Let's see if LiquidRet and I believe it's ROOTToD now. Yes, ROOTToD can take game number 3, take this in a 3-0 sweep, or if Team Acer, I believe it's going to be Todd versus Bly. The requirement is each player has to play at least once in a 1 versus 1. So that does mean the other 2 remaining teammates are going to have to play. We're going to see how is Todd versus Bly going to go. Let's go ahead and jump into it and check it out. I'll see you guys there.